Motion by Lynn Robson, second.
Second.
Second by Martin Kaiserschat. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Next item for our agenda is to welcome our newest board member, Sandy Gerke. Welcome.
Thank you.
And you can have your word.
Mr. President, for acting president, I would like to, at the last meeting, when I announced the vote count, I made a mistake on the number of votes that Sandy Gerke received, and I just want to set the record straight. So, Sandy, check me here. Make sure I say this correctly. She received 3,602 votes, and I just want to make sure that we welcome you to the board and that that is an accurate representation of the votes.
That's accurate, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome again, Sandy. The next item on our agenda is the election of board officers, and I will just go over the guidelines. The following guidelines are used for the election of officers for the positions of president, vice president, treasurer, and clerk. There shall be 3 calls for nominations. More than one person can be nominated at any given call. A second is not necessary for nomination. If only one person is nominated, a unanimous voice vote for that person is cast, and the person is declared elected. If more than one person is nominated, voting should be by secret ballot, a prepared slip of paper, not by show of hands or voice vote or roll call. A majority of the ballots cast will determine who is elected. More than half of the votes cast is necessary for appointment. An example of that: 4 votes for person A, 1 vote for person B, 2 votes for person C. The winner would be the person with 4 votes. Results of a ballot should only identify the winner and not who received how many votes. Those are our guidelines, and I will call for the first nomination for the office of president. Is there a nomination for the office of president?
Acting President Holland, I would like to nominate Mr. Tom Holland to be president for the Board of Education.
There's been a nomination for Tom Holland. Is there a second nomination? Is there a third nomination? Hearing no other nominations, we will call for the vote on the nomination of Tom Holland. All those in favor of Tom Holland as president of this board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say the same sign. Hearing none, we will determine, I guess, that I'm the president. So,
Congratulations.
Nice job.
thank you. And for the second office, vice president, I'll call for a first nomination for vice president.
I nominate Lynn Robson.
We have a nomination for Lynn Robson. Is there a second nomination? Is there a second nomination? Hearing none, we have one nomination for Lynn Robson for the office of vice president. All those in favor of Lynn Robson as vice president of this board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, Lynn.
Congratulations.
For the office of treasurer, is there a nomination for the office of treasurer?
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Dan Chornohoy as treasurer.
We have one nomination for the office of treasurer, and that's Dan Turnahoy. Is there a second nomination? A second nomination? Hearing no other nominations, the nomination for treasurer being Dan Turnahoy, all those in favor of Dan Turnahoy as treasurer for this board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Dan Turnahoy, who's not with us tonight, will be our treasurer on this board. The last office is the office of clerk. Is there a nomination for the office of clerk?
Mr. President, for the office of clerk, I would like to nominate Mark Kaiserschat.
We have a nomination for the office of clerk being Mark Kaiserschat. Is there a second nomination? Is there a second nomination? Hearing none, we have a nomination for the office of clerk being Mark Kaiserschat. All those in favor of Mark Kaiserschott as for the office of clerk, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Mark, and we have our business taken care of for our office for this year. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our recognition, and so we'll ask Sandy Kovach to walk us through that.
Thank you. We have a special recognition to start out with this evening. I'm going to ask Vicki McLaughlin to come on up. She'll stand in front of the microphone, please. Vicki is a science teacher at Hudson High School and has worked very hard with both AP Physics and AP Chemistry to really grow that program and make it a very, very strong program. She has received the Noble Educator of Distinction by the National Society of High School Scholars. What's unique about this is that student members of the organization nominate the teacher that they feel has made the most significant contribution to their academic career. So one of Vicki's students nominated her for this special award. And this award recognizes teacher role models who have made a lasting difference in their classroom by encouraging students to strive for excellence. So we want to say congratulations, Vicki. Thank you. Next, I know I have several members out there, so music educators of Hudson, if you would step forward as well. I know there's quite a few out there. The Hudson community has once again been named one of the best communities for music education by the National Association of Music Merchants. And this community is so supportive that we have received the award 4 times in my career here: 2005, 2008, 2011, and 2012. And they survey looking for information on music participation, instruction time, support for music, and then other relevant factors in the community that support a strong music education program. I don't know if you, well, we might as well let them know who's here. Carl, you want to start with?
Carl Meinke, middle school band.
Carol Golling, middle school choir, and it was 2010, not 2011.
Thank you for the correction.
Connie Root, middle school band. Linda Waldron, elementary music, North Hudson.
Dan Baumgartner, elementary music, EPU.
Megan Andrews, elementary music, Rivercrest.
Paul Crazen, middle school band and elementary music at Prairie and Rock.
Amy Gallick, Hudson Prairie Elementary. Leon Stein, middle school, general music, and 3 elementary schools.
So this group represents quite a bit of the rock behind our wonderful music program, as you know. And several of the members cannot be here because, of course, marching band has already started, and some of them are given music lessons. Music takes over their lives. This is also kind of a bittersweet for this group as well. Carl is retiring, so we will be losing one of our strong middle school band instructors, and we wish you a happy retirement, Carl. And thank you for all of your efforts over the years. Next, we want to talk about DECA. DECA is an organization across the nation that prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs for careers in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management in both high schools and colleges around the globe, actually. It's an international organization. 3 members of our DECA, Riley Collins, David Madsen, and Thomas Dewey, actually had the opportunity to go to the national conference and compete at the national level. And I know I have David Madsen here this evening. So David, if you'll actually come up all the way to the mic, because I know you're ready to share a little bit about that experience at the national competition. So here's David.
Yeah, this was all of our first experiences going to nationals. I had been to state before, so it was kind of a big deal. Riley finished 7th at state, I finished 11th, and after a couple drop downs, we actually managed to make it to nationals. Thomas getting to go as a learning experience, really, to go take in information from business leaders. Actually meant the Men's Warehouse guy, whose voice actually sounds like that. And It was a great learning experience for Thomas, especially seeing how he got to meet business leaders, go to extra speeches and stuff, and he probably had the hardest days there. Me and Riley competed. I competed in food marketing, Riley in retail marketing. Neither of us actually placed, but for our first times, I feel like it was a great learning experience. Can't say I would really change a thing. It was a great time. And I do appreciate you guys taking the time to hear us out on the bid to get funding for this and allowing us to go. And I would suggest in the future, because it was one of the few learning experiences you get for business, as in real life experiencing with business people in the area. So thank you guys.
Good.
Yes, thank you.
I forgot to mention, too, Amy Emerson has been their advisor, the DECA advisor at the high school as well. All right. I know we have a big crew for forensics, so we'll let them come up as well. We have an outstanding forensics group at the high school. They are coached both by Miss Nikki Benson and this year Craig Lewis. And they'll be turning the reins, but anyway, you can see on the screen the competitors that went to the state level and how many then came back with gold and silver and bronze awards. It's just a fantastic showing. So, Ms. Benson?
And I'd also like to mention, when we go to state, we can also place in the baby bronze category, but all of our students placed above that category. And out of the 9 gold medals we won, 7 were from underclassmen. So we have a really good, strong underclassmen team. So I'm really excited to keep building that next year. I definitely pitch it to my incoming 9th graders, and next year I'll have 4 sections of 9 enriched. So I think I'll be able to recruit a few, I hope. Now, my favorite part of coaching forensics is when I encounter people who don't know what forensics is. Our bus driver, actually on our way to state, thought she was driving us to a crime scene investigation competition. I can't make that up. She really thought that. I think she was kind of disappointed when she realized we were just competitive speech and acting team. But I think we grew on her throughout the 8 hours we spent on the bus with her. But our season really starts informationally in November. The kids start picking their pieces around January, and then we really get into practice mode January and February. We attended 2 invitationals this year, one in Menominee, where one of our sophomores, Elijah Verduin, plays second in radio, and in Richmond on February 25th, where Zane, right here, Zane, you want to raise your hand a little bit? He plays 4th in extemp, which as a coach, I believe is probably our hardest category. If any of you remember having to give speeches in high school or college, Zane gives 3 speeches per competition that he only has a half an hour to prepare, and he has to use sources that he gets in a packet. So I have a lot of respect for the extemp category. And Corinne Urban earned 3rd in solo acting. All of our students made it past sub-districts and districts to go on to state, and as you can see by our results, we do amazing each and every year. And being able to coach kids who choose to be in a competitive speech and acting team every year, you can't get better kids than we have in our program. It just makes me really proud as a coach and as a Hudson teacher, because they always represent us very well everywhere we go. So I'll turn it over to the kids to say a little something, and then I know we have something for Craig too.
Hello, my name is Nick Vandenhavel. I was the captain of this year's forensics team, and I've been in it all 4 years. And I'd have to say my favorite story about all of it was I always picked really out there pieces. They were never normal. And just this year, one of the judges came up to Miss Benson and said, I have to talk to you about one of your students. I believe his name is Nick. And she was starting to freak out a little bit because, well, it's me. And she responded by saying, what about it? And the judge asked her, does he always pick odd pieces? And she just smiled and says, yeah, he does. All in all, though, I'd have to say my 4 years in forensics were amazing. I never had a better time. The friends that I made and the experiences I got, probably the best ones I've ever had all through my high school career. And Mr. Lewis and Miss Benson were the best coaches any kid could have asked for. And it was a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
I'm Bridget Donahue, and I'm a sophomore, and this is my second year in forensics. And I took on the challenge of solo acting this year. It's kind of freaky because I did group acting last year, but I decided to do kind of a creepy piece, and I did the yellow wallpaper, if you've ever heard of that. So during my piece, I crawl around on the floor, I'm screaming, and then at the end, I stand up, oh, I'm done. I look around the room, it never failed. None of the times, people would never look at me, no eye contact in my room, let alone talk to me. So I can't say I made a lot of friends at forensics this year, but it was a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it in for anything. So it was definitely a great year, and I can't wait for next year, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Zane, and I do extemporaneous speaking. So how my category works is you're put into the library of the school usually. Now, extemp is sort of the category of loners because we basically stay in the library the entire time, and we study the time in Newsweek that we bring there to use for our sources. So at the appropriate draw time, we'll go up and we'll draw 5 topics, one of which you'll choose and go write a speech for 30 minutes and then deliver it, usually 5 to 7 minutes. Now, the sources will come from Time and Newsweek. The topics are drawn from those same magazines from the past 4 months, I think. So I had, by state in April, I was holding 4 months worth of Newsweek and Time, so that was a pretty significant load to haul around and almost keep memorized what articles you have where. Because when you go, what the interesting part of extemp is the luck of the draw on the category rather than other categories where you can actually prepare. And while you can prepare for extemp, you can only do so much. So when you draw the 5 categories, you're thinking in your head, do I have a source for this? I do, right? And then that horrible moment when you go back to the table and you think, oh, no, this is wrong. Oh. There were some interesting times this season like that. I did a much better job of keeping up on my sources rather than last season where I basically skimmed everything. That didn't work out so great. This year, I met people. I made actually pretty good friends with some of the team members from Menominee. It builds a lot of self-confidence things. It builds, for anyone that, there aren't any APUSH students in here, but writing DBQs in APUSH, it helps so much. I can't even express how much it helped. It's a great program, and I hope to see it continue.
Hello, I'm Craig Lewis, and if you take those 3 students and multiply it by 10 to 15 every year, that's what I get to work with. Isn't that wonderful? That's just wonderful kids in there. It's great fun all year long to work with them. So congratulations to them, and thank you, Captain Nick, and thank you, Nikki Benson, for making this another wonderful season in my career. Thank you.
Craig, will you stay there just a moment, please? You knew this was coming, I know. Craig is passing the baton as coach to Miss Benson, and we just want to take time to recognize you as well. And if you look again at the screen, you'll notice 33 seasons of forensics he has been the coach, 24 seasons of debate, 32 seasons of drama, 9 seasons of quiz bowl. This is a super teacher who gives above and beyond, so we want to say thank you.
You know, it's great today to see so many of our students and their poise and their ability to speak publicly. And we know it's because of certainly their parents and the experiences they have, but a great part of that are teachers. And this week is National Teacher Appreciation Week. And it's just absolutely wonderful. Sandy talked about teachers as role models. The ones that we've had here tonight and the ones that aren't here certainly represent high-quality teachers within the Hudson School District, and their value is beyond measure to our students, to our community, and to the future. So congratulations and thank you to all of our teachers.
I'd like to offer my congratulations as well to all the teachers and the students and the administrators who have received recognition tonight. We're very proud of you, very proud of what you represent for our school district. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report.
Mr. President and board members, I'll first start with recognition of the Hudson Education Foundation and the grants that they have just recently awarded. This represents $6,700 of these grants. 4 of the grants are within the Hudson School District, and certainly we know that these teachers and students will benefit from these experiences that have been provided by the funding education of Hudson Foundation. I would like to just recognize one of their board members, Nola Gain, who has been on their board of trustees for 22 years. 22 years of service over the time period of the Education Foundation of Hudson, and she will be recognized by the board at their award ceremony tomorrow. So congratulations and thank you to Nola for all her dedication to the foundation, but certainly to the Hudson School District and our staff and students. Moving on to the United Way of St. Croix Valley. Once again, our staff have been generous with their dollars to serve our community. And the campaign total for this year was $20,757 coming from Hudson School District staff members. And part of those funds go to programs within the Hudson School District that serve our students, and they are grants that we can apply for. And so this year, part of that grant pool is $6,500, and also John Coughlin has, the executive director, has added $2,500 to that pool, and applications can be made. That pool in the past has supported the Hudson High School Peer Helpers and the Angel Fund in all of our schools. So I encourage our principals and teachers to apply for those funds to use to support our youth. And I'll keep moving unless there's some questions. All right. Sometimes in our community, we hear some comments that just aren't correct. And something that happened when we went to the City of Hudson Plan Commission meeting, David Robson, who is the husband of Lynn Robson on our board, as a parent and a community leader, spoke in favor of the rezoning of St. Croix Meadows property. Following that time, and his advocacy for the St. Croix Meadows property, there was a rumor that started that was untrue, that he would have some financial gain because of the sale of St. Croix Meadows. And what I can tell you that David Robson has no financial gain whatsoever as a result of the sale of St. Croix Meadows. Representing the Hudson School District is our attorney. So we are not working with Greystone Realty that David is a principal in, and so we're not paying any commission to a broker. And then we have a letter as well from the seller, or the attorney for the seller of St. Croix Meadows. And I'd like to read that letter to you that stipulates that David has no financial gain from the sale of the property on their side, on the seller side. So this is dated May 3rd, 2012. Dear Mr. Erickson, it is addressed to Tim Erickson, our Financial Services Director. You have inquired on behalf of the Hudson School Board of any financial and beneficial relationship between the ownership group of the track and Greystone Commercial Real Estate Company or its principals, including David Robson. There is none. In 2010, Greystone Commercial, attention Brian Zeller, was one of the several local and nationally affiliated commercial realtors within the states of Wisconsin and Minnesota that were extended an invitation by the tract to make a proposal for consideration to list the tract as being for sale to a national audience. Brian Zeller, among others, years earlier, had been advised informally that the tract was available for sale, had received a copy of its floor building plans, toured the premises, and did submit a proposal to formally list the property. From that realtor invitation effort, however, an exclusive listing agreement was extended only to Grubb & Ellis, Northco Real Estate Services, Wayzata, Minnesota. Even in that agreement, the tract owners reserved the right to make a sale to the Hudson School District without the services of a realtor group, which is what happened, now requiring minimum payment only to Grubb & Ellis for its marketing efforts. Please advise your board in this manner. If you have any further questions, please contact me directly. And it's sincerely Dennis Neeser from Gray, Plant, and Moody.
Thank you, Mary. Are there any questions or comments regarding the reports? Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a report on the Hudson School District and University of Wisconsin River Falls Master's Program Partnership.
Yep. Thank you. And Peg Shoemaker and others are joining us. Peg is currently the principal at Willow River. While she was serving as the associate director, a special partnership with UWRF was established, whereby we created our own master's program where we take some of the strengths and the learnings that we want to have for our teachers and blended it with the requirements of UWRF. And I think Peg will provide some of the details for us.
Thank you, Cindy. Good evening, board members, and welcome, Board Member Gierke. I'd like to introduce Christina Doberstein, who is a 5th grade teacher at Willow River, and Michelle DeLong, who's a 4th grade teacher at Hudson Prairie. They'll tell you a little bit about the work that we did together. Tonight I heard the word teacher along with words such as passion and excellence and inspiration. And tonight what I'm going to tell you definitely falls into those categories. We started 2 years ago with 22 Hudson School District teachers, and we'll be graduating 17 of those teachers this coming Saturday. These teachers will have their Masters of Science in Education, and we'll be receiving that this coming Saturday at UW River Falls campus. So we began this adventure a couple of years ago, and I partnered and co-facilitated with Dr. Mary Mankey, who is a retired associate dean at the University of Wisconsin River Falls, and we partnered together in this particular learning adventure. It was what made it unique. Many teachers get their masters each year in Hudson. What made this unique is the partnership between the HSD 2025 as well as the University of Wisconsin River Falls requirements for a master's. That's what made the program unique, is that there has never been before a Hudson School District cohort made up of all Hudson School District members, and that provided some of that uniqueness. So you see before you a group of teachers. That's the 17 teachers who will be graduating. They are a combination of kindergarten through 12th grade, a variety of departments such as math and learning disabilities, kindergarten through 5th grade, art. So they all brought their perspective based on their department, based on their school, which made the opportunity for all members of the cohort to really be able to experience what it meant to be a part of the Hudson School District in a K-12 perspective. On to the next slide. One of the pieces about the program was that it really mirrored what we expect from our teachers in their classrooms with their students. So it was very much 21st century program design for 21st century students. All of the pieces that you see before you, the collaboration, a constructivist approach, real-life application, problem-solving reflection, technology, all were incorporated into research projects where teachers formed hypotheses and syntheses based on multiple qualitative for the most part, but some quantitative data. So you might be wondering what shared inquiry. This is the name of the cohort, which was Hudson School District, or excuse me, UW River Falls Hudson Shared Cohort 1. The next slide really talks about what shared inquiry means. It's very much problem solving and thinking about particular issues and problems that arise in the area of teaching and learning, and seeking how do you solve those problems based on all of the principles of the shared inquiry group, such as group problem solving, critical thinking, realistic application, those sorts of principles. It's very much based on a big share of the weekends. We would spend one weekend a month for 9 sessions, so we had a total of 36 days that we spent from 8 to 4 working on this project, and teachers submitted their action research, submitted it again the following year, and we really came away with some really projects to be really proud of and some research to be proud of. So you can see on the next slide, obviously, our HSD 2025, and we really worked most deeply on the critical thinking piece, the collaboration, the innovation, the global stewardship, as well as talking about multiple perspectives. As I said in the next slide, we talked quite a bit. In fact, we had action research each semester, and the final action research process was completed. They presented their action research last weekend, and again, will be receiving their diploma on Saturday. I think what I'd like to have happen is for you to hear from the 2 teachers, and so I'll start with Christina, and she can share what her experience was, especially having a Hudson School District perspective.
Hello, I'm Christina Doberstein. As Peg said, I teach 5th grade at Willow River Elementary. I was looking at different programs for masters, but something told me that when I saw this program, this was the one for me. And I got excited about it because not only did it help improve my teaching, but the camaraderie and the cohort model pushed me into limits that I probably would have never gone without the support of the family friendship that we all developed with each other. Not only did I grow professionally, but I grew personally and accomplished some things I never would have been able to, including speaking before you tonight. The advantage of an all-Hudson cohort for me was to focus on what we in Hudson are all about. It would be interesting to have heard other perspectives or what other schools do for assessment and global literacy and environmental sustainability, but to all be on the same page with it. We didn't have to spend a lot of time explaining things of what we already do and know and understand. And so the depth of what we were able to receive or give and learn was a huge advantage. A personal advantage that I found out was not only am I proud to be an employee of Hudson, but I'm a parent. I have 2 children in the Hudson School District, and I'm really excited about having them go through the system, learning about the integrity and the dedication that our teachers have K-12 and the whole system. And I chose for my project, I became a member of the Language Arts Committee a couple years ago, and we studied vocabulary, became an interest, and that's what my research was on how to incorporate playful activities into the classroom to advance reading comprehension and vocabulary skills. But this past year I focused most on Greek and Latin roots and how that impacts the performance of our students on the MAPS test that we all value and know. And it was pretty exciting, the results I came up with, and to hear the kids talking and using Greek and Latin roots is also very gratifying. So thank you. I'll pass it on to Michelle.
Hello, I'm Michelle DeLong, and I teach 4th grade at Hudson Prairie. Peg asked us to speak on a couple of points. Her first one was, how did this experience make us a better teacher? learning collaboratively from your peers is probably priceless. To work with friends, as Christina said, on a daily basis that you feel comfortable with, that you can share gripes, successes, anything together, and worked collaboratively to overcome them and to build upon them was a really great experience. It really ventured me out into the teaching world to see what others are doing globally. We looked at examples in Finland of what they're doing there, what their day looks like, what they emphasize in their curriculum. It pushed me to experience things in my own classroom that I probably would not have tried. Had I not taken a 7-year maternity leave, this probably would have been my 22nd year teaching. So it really brought that passion back into what I'm doing, and it ignited more fire to get out there and learn more, bring it to my students. They are the biggest sponges in my world right now, and now I seem to have that need to soak up new things that are out there and try it in my classroom as well. The advantage of an all-Hudson cohort, not just sharing each other's experiences, but to see where that scaffolding goes throughout the district was valuable as well. I too have 2 children here that started at Rock, and I now have a middle schooler and a high schooler, and to see how that carries through from the lower levels all the way up. It was also interesting to work with our peers and to learn the language that each of us uses at the various grade levels. High school teachers now know what F&P stands for. After a good chuckle, they now are familiarized with Fountas and Pinnell, and they had never heard of that before. And we see what they are doing as far as recording their students so that they can look back over their experiences and how they can become better learners as well. Really built my pride in being a Hudson teacher. I have worked in a variety of states throughout this country, and it's really incorporated that pride into me. I've been able to take those past experiences and put them into my classroom, but to see the limits that we are pushing here in Hudson, I'm excited for what my children are going to become because of that. They are not going to be confined to a small town in Wisconsin. Their boundaries are endless. What research impacts for my students and my teaching? For my action research was based on active learning strategies in mathematics with 4th grade students. I love math. I tell my students I could teach math 24/7, and that is really not something that is incorporated in most of my females. They kind of groan and moan at math, and by putting those active learning strategies into my classroom, to see that passion come back to them, to sit there and get excited to see math every day, to ask if they can do more, it is inspiring for them. It's inspiring for me. It's inspiring to see what they're going to become. Research has kind of become a standard operating procedure now with me more. It used to be more frightening. I didn't want to get into that. Who has the time, the energy at the end of the day? But it's exciting to get out there and to actually pick up Ed Weekly, which wasn't really on my reading list before, to see what others are doing and to look at that online, to tap into the internet and the resources that are out there. What are teachers doing in other parts of the country or the world, and how can I bring that into my classroom and make that important to my students here in Hudson? It is great to see enthusiasm for math building in my classroom, for kids that want to do it all the time, that go home to their parents and say, this is the best thing ever. In a world that is so into the mathematics and technology world, it's great to see that passion coming into my students. The research has also kept my love for learning now in the forefront of my life. I want to get out there and do other things with my teaching, bring new things into them, make them better. It's really not a small world. It's a big world, and they need to be prepared for that. So that has been one of the greatest impacts of our cohort community. So it was great to all work together.
So thank you for letting us showcase some of the work that our teachers have done, and I'm certainly incredibly proud of them, as I know that you are.
You know, this is a great example of HSD 2025 in action. and the evidence that that Michelle and Christina have talked about and how it has moved their practice. And certainly, we have teachers learning all over the district, but this customized master program has been certainly a very effective way for us to create stronger teacher leaders and help them develop in their areas throughout the district. It's also a wonderful partnership with UW River Falls, and certainly we need to point that out. It's a neighbor to our south that is highly valued in the school district, and we're able to benefit from that.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. President, if I could, just a great report, ladies. I just was curious if Michelle and Christina could share. I can see the many advantages of this cohort model, and it's something I wish I had the ability to take advantage of. But were there any special challenges presented by this model?
You mean beside they worked with PEG?
Well, you want to state the obvious.
I know, that was tough. One of the challenges, there was such a diverse group of us, from kindergarten to specialists in the high school, so we really had to learn to be open and receptive to each other's ideas. We spoke language to each other that some of us didn't understand, so you have to kind of treat each other like kindergartners at time and break that down so that each of us could understand what the other person was going through and trying to do within their own classroom. But that also made us stronger and more cohesive in the long run. Once we got through all that storming and norming, we figured out how to work together and succeed.
Similar to in classrooms where we want multiple perspectives, we want diverse opinion. We very much sought diversity in thought in order to come to an understanding of what perspectives people come to the table with. I do think last year was particularly challenging for the group as we ended the year with the things taking care happening in the legislature. It was definitely a challenge as a facilitator to keep teachers inspired and passionate, and yet it didn't take long. We shared at the very end, one of the pieces that we shared with last weekend was, it was an ending where teachers stated, I came with, I leave, and I hope. And teachers left being better teachers and feeling like they were better teachers and that they had the opportunity to make a greater impact than they had before, in spite of all the challenges that our state has had.
Thank you.
Mr. President, what's the future of the program, Peg? I mean, are there...
We right now are recruiting to begin in the fall and are hopeful that we would get enough to have a Hudson cohort too. So.
And you were at the Hudson campus?
Yes, we were at the Hudson campus above Eagle
Valley Bank.
The bank there, which was a beautiful facility to have class in.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Ladies, thank you, and we appreciate your efforts and your development in your profession. Particularly, I don't think the audience can see this, but the level of emotion and passion is certainly telling in your faces and in your voices. And that's very telling to me. So thank you. Thanks for your efforts.
Thank you.
We have a citizen's request to speak tonight. Ellen Denzer McSwain. Okay. And Ellen, I just want to just give you the respect to forewarn you that if this is an item that's regarding personnel matters, we'll have to deal with that outside this board. So please, thank you. You want to stand to the mic and give your name here and address? And I'll have to stop you if we do get to personnel issues. Thank you.
I will endeavor not to cause any problems.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Ellen Denzer McSwain. I am a resident of Hudson. I've been a resident for about 20 years. I worked in this community also. I work for the St. Croix County. I have 4 children, one who recently graduated last spring, and I have 3 others, one in the high school, one in the middle school, and one in the elementary school. And the reason I have come to speak for you today is about an agenda item which I think, I do not know, that you will be dealing with later in closed session. I realize that I cannot speak about that item, but I can speak about process and communication that I and the other parents involved have experienced as part of this situation. Starting on March 27th, we brought this situation, which we found very disturbing and appalling, to the attention of the school board, not school board, excuse me, the school administration, and also the high school. And we had good follow-up initially. We met with Mr. McIntyre, and we found that that was a very good meeting. I think all of us felt that it went pretty well. And we also met with Mrs. Love at the same time, and we felt that went very well. So this is not about people personally. This is about the process. Since that time, we've been waiting and waiting to find out what's going to happen about the concerns we've raised. And they have given us very short emails and or verbally told us next week, next week, next week. And this has happened over and over again. We were never told throughout the process whether or not this would be going to the school board. I did ask when we were interviewed if it had already been to the school board, and was told they had been told what they were allowed to be told, whatever that means. I do not know if you guys will actually take action at this time on what has been brought before you or what will come before you. I think that in the future, and even in this situation, there should have been better communication to us as parents. There are 3 sets of students who were involved and 3 sets of parents who wanted better information and better communication all along. We needed to know what the process would be. If the reason that we didn't get any resolution quicker was because it needed to come before this board, we should have been told that. I think that's a fair and honest thing that we could have been told. This is the time frame, this is the process. And I don't think it's appropriate that we weren't told that, if that's the case. Or we should have been told, no, it won't be going before the board. It's next week, next week, next week for some other reason. We weren't given reasons. We also have been frustrated by the fact that our students were not the only ones that were affected by this situation. And I asked during our interview, and other parents asked, have you contacted the other parents? They have a right to know. And I think that the school needs a very, very strong position that parents will be informed, that parents will know what's going on. You can't always assume that students will communicate with their parents. They can't always know that they will choose to share this information. And I can't speak to that directly because I do not want to say hearsay or anything, but I have strong indications that those parents are not all aware of what happened, and I think it's the kind of situation where they have every right to know. And I think 5 weeks since the incidents happened is way too long to wait for the parents to be notified. Now, perhaps they've been notified since then. I hope so. But at the time we asked and the time the follow-up passed, we were told no, they did not know. They had not been informed by the school. And I would like to add that you guys sent us out emails and messages about everything. You know, we get, and that's great. Amazing communication. I think that that needs to apply to situations like this also. So, and again, I can't be specific, and I will not. A couple other points we would like to make. I think that when something this serious is going on, that the individuals that are being affected, I'm trying to say this very carefully, should definitely not have continuous contact with students. As it was explained to us, there were 2 investigations going on. I think when there's such a situation like that, that it is inappropriate for individuals to continue to have contact with students. And I think that that was an error in judgment. And I don't think that that should be allowed to continue in the future under such a situation. And by the way, all of these points were shared with the other parents involved. One of the other sets of parents could not be here tonight, but the Davidsons did. They do know what I've said, so we won't take too much of your time. A couple other things I would like to just say is that we would like to know ahead of time if something's going to be on an agenda. I think given how closely we were involved, we realize that public notice, you can find out about things, you can look at, follow things, but especially when it comes to something this sensitive, you can't really tell from an agenda. And we are closely impacted. It is very, very important to us. We are the ones who originally brought forward the issue. And we think that in that situation, a little bit extra effort of letting us know when the school board will be talking about something should be taken. A little bit extra time. I found out by accident that this was that your meeting might, and I don't even know that it does, might address this issue tonight. And I think that it would have been more appropriate to say, okay, guys, by the way, the school board will be discussing your issue, and we will be able to get back to you after the school board discusses it. Even that kind of information should have been conveyed to us. A final point from my point of view is that we really think we have something that we would like to add to your deliberations. I realize it would be in closed session, and I am not expecting that we would hear your deliberations, but we would like to request that when and if the school board moves forward on this issue, whether it's tonight or another time, I see it is not on your agenda specifically under action items, but I don't know if that's how you handle closed sessions normally. But we would like to address the board. And again, we understand we wouldn't be able to listen to your deliberations, but we could address you and then be asked to leave. And I think that is a very reasonable request. This is very important to us. We feel very, very strongly about it, and we think that you should hear what we have to say. We have sent letters. If those letters are included in the information you will receive, that's great. If you aren't able to receive those letters for various reasons, then we think that we should be allowed to submit. And if you refuse to have us attend this or a future closed session, we think we should be allowed to submit letters stating our position and why we feel that way in a manner that would then be allowed in your closed session. And those are the things that we wanted to ask of you tonight, we wanted to address. And again, I hope I have not crossed the line in any way. I do not intend to. And I thank you very much for your time. Patty, Jason, you want to add anything? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have one more citizen's request to speak, and then we'll take comments from the board if there are any. Kurt Weiss.
You guys are moving stuff around on me up here, Tom. Kurt Weiss, I live at 613 Cedar Drive North and have for the last 20 years. The fact the City of Hudson Plan Commission is taking a skeptical view of the dog track rezoning is a good thing for the school board. I believe this is a time for the school board to reflect and reconsider the path you are on. The Plan Commission doesn't quite buy your 65-acre minimum for a secondary school, nor do I think they buy your, quote, non-build options that have been presented. When addressing the Plan Commission, Ms. Bowen Egerbottom stated the district needed to build a school in order to keep class sizes between 22 to 27. Yet when asked to provide the average class sizes for the middle school and high school, Ms. Bowen Egerbottom stated that no such information existed. The fact that our superintendent cannot provide such basic information is simply astounding. I have called several school districts in the past few days, and every single one of them was able to provide such information. The City of Hudson Plan Commission should be extremely cautious about rezoning the property when the school board has not provided convincing evidence that there's a need to provide additional space. A 2006 referendum flyer from the Hudson School District, which I have this evening, showed a projection of approximately 2,850 children in the elementary schools this coming fall, and it is quite apparent that the actual numbers will be woefully short of this, yet the school board has made no mention of that fact. After construction of Rivercrest, there is space for 3,000 children at the elementary level using the district's capacity figures, which means that we are overbuilt at the elementary level by approximately 500 students. Also, the preliminary kindergarten roundup number was just 321 children. While I'm sure this number has increased in the past few months, it will not be close to the projections that Hazel Reinhardt has presented. In light of this new information and in light of the proposition that this dog track property may not be rezoned by the City Council, I'm encouraging the school board to look at reasonable options that do not include the construction of a big new secondary school. Creating space for 4,800 children at the secondary level will create far too much capacity and is a huge step that cannot be reversed. I believe the school board should embrace a more prudent path and look for ways to use existing facilities more efficiently with the possibility of modest additions to existing facilities. Please remember that the UU land purchase referendum was approved by a 64 to 36% margin. Yet the referendum to build an 8-9 building on that property lost by a 72 to 28% margin, which is the largest defeat ever in Wisconsin referendum history. Please don't look at this vote as a mandate. A more robust opposition, mailings, lit drops, and phone calls will make the next vote a much more difficult task. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Kurt. Responses from the board or the administration? Sandy?
I'm so new at this, you guys, so bear with me, but I asked for the average class sizes a couple of months ago, and I think I discussed it with Nancy when I was speaking with her, and I was told they weren't available. So is that something that is difficult to get? It doesn't come out of the software, or what is the problem with getting an average class size?
Nancy, do you want to address that?
Can address it in the same way that we talked about it before. We can create that. The documents themselves do not automatically exist. They can be created with some staff time.
But I would want to just think about average class size for a moment and what it actually means. Because when it has more meaning at the elementary level than it does at our other levels. But still at the elementary, we have certain classes that have different numbers. When you particularly get to the middle school and the high school, and that's the area we're talking about for a secondary school, you have more of a range of class size. And we look at the range of class sizes as opposed to the average class size. It has much more meaning to us. When you take a choir class, which can have, I don't know, Sandy, are we talking about 100 students or what our numbers can be, but they're very high, or band, or it could be orchestra. And then you also look at certain classes that are very low. And we have some students with disabilities, some classes that need special services, and those are very low numbers. Certainly when we average those class sizes, they have no meaning overall. And when we do it, our system doesn't do it automatically. So it has to all be done by hand, which is a significant amount of work. And it has very little meaning for us when we look at the system. We have other things that enter into that, the size of the room that the class is held in. We're looking at our high school. We have some rooms that are very small. And so, you know, the average class size for that room, I'm sorry, we just can't have that in the room. We also have classes that have safety issues and concerns. And they have a certain number of students that can be in that class or stations in that class that also restrict the class sizes. But again, that's what we look at because that has meaning to us. We do not look at the average class size in this case because it doesn't have a meaning that's productive for the school district.
What does the range of class sizes tell you? Why is that information meaningful to you?
So, for example, and I'm going back to pre-referendum, so I may not have these numbers exactly right. But I was looking at, I think it was algebra classes at the it was geometry classes at the high school. And they are very large. I don't remember the percentage that was above our class size guidelines, which is 22 to 27. But we have a number of those classes that are over 30. We have a number of them, and I'm looking at Laura. Laura's telling me four of them are 34% over the class size. And that's with all our core classes at the high school, which we've done manually to just look at it because of some of the requests. But I know geometry, very large numbers at the high school. Most of those classes are not within our class size guidelines. They're above it. I used to know the percentages, but off the top of my head right now, I do not remember them. Therefore, the averages don't necessarily mean anything to us. The range, when we look at geometry, what's the range of the classes? Are they 28 to 34 or 35? That tells us a lot more.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Any other comments or responses?
Mr. President, I just want to respond briefly to, I guess, a couple of points that Mr. Weiss had made, and I know this is kind of a sensitive subject, but I know Mr. Weiss had referenced he was pleased that the Planning Commission had questioned our need for 65 acres and also whether there were even space needs at the district at all. And I guess my comment would just be that I actually think that's really an inappropriate line of inquiry for the Zoning Commission. I think their role should be to determine whether that dog track site is an appropriate and suitable use, land use for a school. And I just don't think they have the expertise or knowledge. I think that should be the Board of Education's determination what we need for a space for a school and what indeed our space needs are. I just think that is our role, the Board of Education's role. And I really think that the Planning Commission should focus a little bit more narrowly on the use of that site as appropriate for a school.
May I respond?
Okay, the thing is that maybe right now we could add on, a section, but we have a bridge coming across by Stillwater, and it goes right into Holton, and we are going to be growing in the future. We're looking at the future. We're not looking just 2 years down the road. We're looking at 20 years down the road. And we must look 20 years down the road, not just 2 years from now, with building. And yes, our elementary, maybe we have 500 extra spaces in 6 schools, but when that opens up and comes through, which it will in another 3 years, it should be finished. We're going to have more children, and they aren't, they're going to be coming in, not being born one at a time a year. You're going to get families of 3, 4, 5. We moved into this district with 6 children plopped right into your, here at all levels from high school down to kindergarten. And that's what our district is. It is a magnet for families. And I don't think we're going to change. And I think we have to look at 20 years down the road, not 2 years.
Thank you, Pat. Sandy, response?
Thank you. And now I need to respond to both of you. So just, I'm very new at this, so I'm going to be asking a lot of questions, so just bear with me. First of all, the comment that you made, Pat, about the growth that's going to come here once that bridge gets in, that's accurate. But remember that the growth in New Richmond and Somerset is going to be phenomenal, too. The growth that's going to come across that river is going to be split between 3 districts. It's not all going to come to Hudson. And, Mark, you mentioned something about you think the Zoning Commission, I wrote it down, should focus on the use of the site as a school. Did I understand you correctly, or...?
Yes.
Okay, but I thought that the job of the Planning Committee and the City Council was to decide whether or not to rezone it, not for a specific purpose, but whether their job is not to talk about the school, the referendum that got passed. Their job is to decide whether or not to rezone this out of commercial, no matter what the use is, the final end use. I don't think their job is to decide whether it should be a school, is it?
Well,
Am I
I guess
mistaken?
I don't think we necessarily disagree, Sandy. I mean, my point was, I guess, that we have just determined our need. The Board of Education has determined what our space needs are.
Okay.
Both with respect to the school, the 65 acres, and with respect to the fact that we need to accommodate some future enrollment growth. And the point I was in referencing to Mr. Weiss is that the Zoning Commission's consideration of what the school district needs vis-a-vis acreage or whether we even need space seems to me to be outside the purview of what they should be considering. You're right, they're there to rezone the land. They should be determining what is an appropriate and suitable use and beneficial for the Hudson community, and that should be their focus. Questioning the district's need for X number of acres, I think, should be beyond the scope of their inquiry.
Then you and I agree, because it isn't their job to determine what the need is. It's their job to determine whether or not they should rezone that property out of commercial. That's the only decision they need to make. Thank you. We agree.
We agree.
Thank you. Mary.
Mr. President, first I would like to just compliment Ellen McSwain for your sensitivity in your comments, and really appreciate that. I know that you will be receiving a response this week, and so I appreciate your patience with that. But I want to promise something to you, and that is that we will look at our process of communication based on your comments and review that for future situations, because I do appreciate your comments, and it is something that we do need to be sensitive to and make sure that we are communicating all that we can communicate within the law. I would also like to address a couple things that Kurt also talked about. One is capacity of the elementary schools, and this is a misunderstanding of our capacities. We have, so that we don't have to argue about that capacity, the capacities of the elementary schools are taking the largest number in each of the grade levels of the class size guidelines and filling every seat in every classroom, in every school in the district. I don't know another district that identifies their capacity that way for schools. We know that children come to us, and they don't come to us in the same numbers in first grade, second grade, third grade, and at Willow River and at North Hudson, so that we fill up our schools equally by grade level, by classroom, and fill those seats. We can't take a fifth grader and put them in a third grade classroom because there happens to be a seat there and it's full in the fifth grade. So we have full capacity at the elementary school, every seat filled. It gives us no flexibility if we really would have that happen. And so it works much better with a little bit of flexibility, and that's what we have. We even, at this time, I'm not sure, Nancy, if we're busing anyone at the present time from their school where the grade level is closed to another school. We are. I'm seeing nods from principals. Because we don't have seats at the particular grade level in our schools. Therefore, it's demonstration of the flexibility you need with the capacities. So just taking a number and talking about it, you have to have a full understanding of what the number means. And the capacity at the elementary schools, there really isn't a lot of space. There's some space, a little bit of space for us, and we need it for flexibility. As far as numbers going into the high school and the middle school and so forth, even if we have no growth in going into our high school in 4 years, and we just move students forward, just move them forward 4 years from now, and we take about half of the numbers in the parochial schools, or an average number from the parochial schools that we usually get, our parochial schools, Trinity and St. Pat's. We have 1,800 students in the high school. Certainly over the 1,635 capacity that we have, and we know that capacity is really a limited capacity because we don't have the common areas to support that capacity at the high school. So we have numbers working through our system right now of students that are there who need additional space to learn. And I could go on and on and on, and I can see these eyes rolling in the audience, so I won't. But there's much that's gone into this, and certainly our community has supported a referendum and seen the need.
Okay, thank you. Just want to thank the citizens for speaking tonight. Thanks for a good discussion with the board. We will continue to take these things under advisement, and it gives us an opportunity to clearly understand and also to clearly communicate what the situation is as we look at these issues. Moving on to the next topic on our agenda, and that is the topic for action. We have a secondary school site concept and land available to be sold at St. Croix Meadows. Mary, I think you're going to...
I'm going to start this off and kind of give the context, and then I'm going to turn it over to Financial Services Director Tim Erickson to give the details in relationship to this. I started out just a few minutes ago and talked about the successful April 3rd referendum, and with a high voter turnout, voters approved the purchase of St. Croix Meadows property for a school site. And actually, voters in every municipality and every district in the city supported this purchase, which is quite phenomenal. A remaining condition of the purchase agreement for St. Croix Meadows is rezoning that property that we've just talked about a few minutes ago. Rezoning it for public use so that a secondary school in the future can be built on that site. President Barb Van Lunen and board member Brian Bell, Tim Erickson, and I appeared before the city's Plan Commission on April 12th. The Plan Commission requested additional information from us, so we requested additional time from the Plan Commission to prepare that information before they considered the rezoning request for St. Croix Meadows. So we've been preparing, and we have some documents now to bring forward to you. We have developed 3 concept site plans for St. Croix Meadows. And they will really serve 2 purposes. When we thought about developing these, we had 2 purposes in mind. One certainly was for the city of Hudson and their rezoning consideration. And the second was for the promise we made to our community that there would be a community engagement process with the passage of a referendum so that we could make decisions about what would go on that site. So we've honored the 3 most promising long-term solutions, secondary space for learning solutions that were first identified by the Facilities Task Force, and then were also identified for the district for the site prior to the referendum as promising solutions. When we think about the concept plans, they're really going to show an evolution on the site from the smallest new secondary school that we've talked about, which would really be the solution, creating a grade 8-9 school on the site, to a 3-year high school, and then to a 4-year high school for 2,000 to 2,500 students. You know, really these conceptual site plans demonstrate the site capacity for the secondary school and its program. So I want to be really clear before you look at these that no decisions have been made about which solution of the 3 that I just talked about the board will bring forward to the voters in a future referendum or another one that our community identifies. There are no decisions that have been made about what will be on the site when it opens as a secondary school. And the future community engagement process will help the board determine both of those, just as we promised prior to the referendum. So Diana, if you would go to the next page. You're looking at the conceptual site design for the grade 8 and 9 school. And through this process of development of the capacity of the site for a secondary school for up to 2,000 to 2,500 students, and we said during the referendum that planning ahead, we would see this school, no matter what, becoming a high school in the future as it's serving the number of students who will eventually come to Hudson, who are here and who will eventually come. And through that process, we have been able to identify about 10 acres that the administration is recommending to the Board of Education to be sold once the district owns the property. So we're recommending that that acreage be for of Hudson or for commercial development, commercial use. Certainly whatever is on that about 10 acres needs to be compatible with a secondary school on the larger parcel. It demonstrates certainly to our community that we are not interested in holding additional land that we don't need for long-term secondary space for learning solution. The proceeds of that eventual sale of that 10 acres will come back to the district and taxpayers in the form of future taxpayer relief. So I'm going to have Tim walk through for the board the 3 plans, and then I'll have some final comments.
Okay, as Mary said, there are three different plans, three different site concept plans. The first one you're looking at is the grade 8-9 secondary. And I'm just going to point around. This is the building zone area. And just to define what the building zone area is, if you look at Rivercrest here, Rivercrest has three legs to it, if you will, and three corridors, and so there's some green space in between. But if you look at this isn't necessarily what the building would be, exactly a rectangular shaped building, but it does define what the building zone is. So if you drew a circle or a square or rectangle around this building, you'd still have some gaps in it where you have the legs that come out. If you look on some of the dashed areas, you can see there's future parking, there's additional future building zone space, and that's as it's developed into a 3-year or a 4-year high school. And there's room for additional future football and softball and baseball fields. And as Mary mentioned, up in the upper left-hand corner, or the south or the northwest portion of the site, there's 10 acres that is set aside for either city use or commercial use. You can see the drives. We've got one on the west side coming in, and we have the other one that comes on off St. Albans Street. And then down here, a proposed limited or emergency access drive, and so that covers the secondary, the 8-9 site concept. If we go to the 3-year high school concept, so you see this as it moves along. There's some more development of the site, and on this one, you'll see on the left-hand side, left center. You'll see a football field, varsity football field, and there's additional practice fields, athletic storage building. The building zone expands, gets bigger, and there's additional parking that would be developed up in that northeast portion of the property. And again, we've got the 10 acres of that commercial or city use. And then as we go to the 4-year site concept, and again, then the building zone, again, you're looking at a 4-year larger building, so the building zone is expanded, and that's to cover the 2,000 to 2,500 students. That would also include potentially an auditorium, a competition pool, and those types of things, but that's all would be decided through that community engagement decision-making process. So that would be as you get to that 4-year site concept. Parking in this particular case, parking, for example, is for up to 1,600 vehicles. Tennis courts for the 4-year include 12 tennis courts. And let's see, again, concession, if you look at the concession area in between the football field and the baseball and softball fields, that's a common concession area, so it creates some efficiency in the land and efficiency as far as any structures are concerned. So those are some of the features. And then, of course, looking at the on the commercial/city portion of this, that transaction, if that were the way that this would go, that would be completed after the district closes on the purchase of the facility. So, any questions?
Can I just add a few more things?
Sure.
So if we look at this 4-year site concept, and it could just be a 3-year large school as well. The 4-year just means that we're moving forward with what can be on the site if it's a large school of 2,000, 2,500 in the future. You can see that the area is filled in with track, football, and soccer competition field. We're not assuming, and again, I'm pointing this out once more, that should the board bring a construction referendum forward to the community, that this will be part of that and replace Newton Field. That would really be through the community engagement process to talk with our community and to give advice to the board before the board made decisions about that. So the intention of these site plans are really to show what space is needed for this particular size of school, for these particular programs that we have already active in our high school and in our middle school, and to reserve that space and identify how much of the space on the site we need for our program and the numbers that we've talked about with our community in the future. So we recommend for your approval the 3-year site plans, and then also 10 acres, approximately 10 acres, to be sold once the district takes ownership of the property for the city or for commercial development, pending approval by the electors at an annual meeting or a special meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. And before we get to questions and discussions from the board, we do have a citizen's request to speak specifically to this item. So I'll invite Kurt to come again and offer your comments.
I know the process. I haven't been here in a while, but I still understand it. Kurt Weiss, 613 Cedar Drive North. A couple of things. Mary talked about a special annual meeting to approve this change. I think that's a little disingenuous. I think, Mary, if I look back at a few months ago, you indicated that something of such magnitude needed to be on an election, needed to be on a general election. That not only means the referendum, it means any changes to the referendum. So you're going to have a referendum on a regular election date, and then you're going to go back and modify it at some special annual meeting where you round up your buddies and they come in and there's 50 or 100 of them and you vote for it. You did that with the administrative office, which you shouldn't have. You had that 2 weeks after a referendum or after a regular election. That's a way to subvert the process. Having these special annual meetings is a way to subvert the process, and it takes the taxpayers basically out of the equation because you don't see nearly the participation. Mary just talked about the wonderful voter turnout for this referendum. You're not going to see anything near that at a special meeting. You can't get 8,000 people into that gymnasium, into that auditorium, can you? I mean, how are you going to have the correct and appropriate determination by the taxpayers at a special annual meeting? I mean, seriously, we don't expect everybody to show up, do we, that voted for the referendum? So I think it's a little disingenuous now to take and modify this and put it at a special meeting. That's just a little bit sly, if you ask me, but it's almost par for the course. The other thing I want to ask, and I know that the Robsons have been working hard to try to disassociate themselves with any financial gain with regards to this referendum, but when you take a third of the commercial property off of the tax rolls, what happens to the other 2/3 that Greystone seems to own a lot? I saw a lot of vote yes signs on their properties. They own a lot of that remaining commercial property. So how is it not a conflict of interest for Ms. Robson to sit up here and vote about any rezoning, anything to do with this property, when you take a third of the property commercial value off of the market, thereby increasing the value of the remaining property, which her husband has a stake in as an associate at Greystone? That doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. She should recuse herself and not be involved in these negotiations and these discussions.
Okay, we'll take any comments or discussions or questions now regarding this item.
Mr. President?
Ben?
I do want to comment on Mr. Weiss's comments about the Robsons being and gaining personally.
Just as a matter of fact, Greystone is a real estate group. They don't own real estate in Hudson. So I would appreciate you researching your facts a little bit more before you're speaking publicly and on TV so people hear an opinion that isn't true, first and foremost. Secondly, Greystone has represented the district in the past when I wasn't a board member for the purchase of the Administrative Services Center. And I believe the district was favorable towards that relationship. And if I was not a board member, they probably would have engaged the services of Greystone. So not only am I not gaining because my husband can't be involved in a commission or a real estate transaction, but we're losing because we aren't. And we're being accused falsely in the community of that.
Thank you, Lynn. I'll just remind everybody that we did receive a letter from an attorney, our attorney, regarding that, and so I think that should stand as an indication as well. Any comments, questions for the administration?
I have
Okay,
some
Sandy?
questions. I'm not quite understanding the process by which something like this comes before this board. And other boards I've served on, the committees serve the purpose of formulating an idea or a project, and then they bring it to the full board for approval. And is that correct, how this works also, correct? So my question would be, which committee authorized the maps?
We are in a change of leadership on our board, and therefore we do not have committees that are functioning until after the new president is elected and appoints the new committees. So there was no committee meeting that we could bring this forward to.
Then
so
how
it's
can it
come
come
to the
forward?
full board. It's come to the full board, and the board can make a decision whether it wants to send it back to committees. But I want to go back to your first question and just address that, because we don't bring everything to committees. Sometimes when it's a decision of the full board, we bring it to the full board because of the the size of that decision, so it comes here first, and the board takes action on it. So not everything goes to committees, but many things do first.
Okay, this did not, correct? Okay, can you tell me who prepared the maps?
As Mark Bolke, who is our land planner and land architect.
So no outside firm was paid to prepare them, correct?
Mark Bolke is with Hoffman.
So an outside firm was paid to prepare them. Can you tell me how much they were paid?
For this particular piece, I don't have the exact number, so I'd hate to put a number out there without it being correct.
Could you get that for me for a later time?
Sure. Mm-hmm. We can do
Great.
that. You bet.
And what budget item did the money to pay for the maps come out of?
We have a professional services that we use that is approved by the board during the budget process.
Is that kind of an open-ended account that just the administration can decide what they want to do with it? I'm just trying to get a clear understanding here.
That's something, it's something that we, if we're going to make expenditures out of there and planned, we would go to a committee.
So just a comment, Sandy, you probably learned this as you work on the board, is that we as the board we provide governance, and we don't expect the administration to come to us every time they spend money and ask for permission. So there's certain direction we give to the administration in terms of how they conduct their business. And so no, we have not asked the administration to come to us on every expenditure. We just provide governance, we provide direction, and so we haven't made the expectation that the administration is going to come to us on every purchase they make.
I understand that.
Yeah.
He commented, though, that you went to a committee to get approval to spend this money?
With some things, if they're unplanned, we would go to a committee.
Oh, but not this.
Not this particular.
Okay, right. I'm just trying to get an understanding of how this works.
And then for some things we can always as a board say that we can look at this particular topic tonight and we can say, you know what, we as a board would like to go back to committee for further investigation. But that's the decision that we kind of make as a board if we want something like that to happen. So not everything goes through committee, but we always have the option to push something into committee if we would like to.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm being asked to vote on this stuff, and I believe I don't have, as a board member, I believe I don't have enough information in front of me to make to decide whether or not these three maps are what we should pursue. I've got a concern about the zoning. You're talking here about selling off 10 acres, and I believe my notes say that Mary said that once you buy the property, we're going to sell off. And then Mr. Erickson said that the 10 acres sale will be completed after the closing on the property. So my question now would be, if the city rezones the entire 130 acres to commercial or to public use, which is what the request currently is before the city, for the whole parcel to be rezoned. And I'm aware of the fact, or I believe what to be true, if the applicant for that rezoning were to go back to the city now and ask for any change in that rezoning, say rezoning 120 instead of 130, that the applicant would have to start over with a new application, and there'd have to be a new public hearing because they're changing their request. So I'm assuming that it is not your intention to have the current applicant, which is the owner of the track, change their rezoning request. You wouldn't do that because that would prolong all of this. But then that would mean that you're going to have to go back after the fact, after the city rezones the whole 130, then you're going to have to go back and ask them to rezone back to commercial 10. Is that what's going to happen?
I would say yes, yeah.
So you
That
will go
is the
back to the
process.
city after they rezone the whole 130 to public use, then you're going to reapproach the city and have them, ask them to rezone 10 back to commercial.
Yes.
I'd like to just jump into that. Our plan, when we met with the Plan Commission, we said we were wanting to collaborate with the city and get to a solution that serves both the city and the school district. And so we would work with the city on what the details are of that, whether it's one scenario or another, or something in between.
And we made the suggestion that as part of that planning process, we need to come up with we need to spend a little more time on the land use and come up with a recommendation. And part of that was we suggested there may be some land that may be suitable either for commercial development or in some kind of partnership with the city. And we didn't have enough information at that time, so I asked for a little more time to do a little bit more due diligence and a little work on that. And this is a step in that process.
Well, since no one really knows if Hudson's going to rezone any of this land or this parcel, I believe, in my opinion, that the presentation of these maps is pretty premature. And I would make a motion to table this item and send it back to the Facilities Committee until our next meeting.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. So is there a second to that motion? Again, I'll ask, is there a second to the motion to table this? Hearing none, the motion fails.
Thank you.
You can correct me on this. I wasn't at the meetings. I did watch it on TV. It seemed like the city really demanded of us to give them some kind of plan that we wanted, or that what we were going to put on the land. That is why we have stepped or jumped into this with both feet. And we've put forth the planning, and you know, if they don't want to rezone back 10 acres into a business district that they can get taxpayer dollars out of, I think we can figure out a use for it on our facility. But if they would like, I mean, we're offering 10 acres because we have gotten, you know, we squished it all in there. But they could have 10 acres that they can get tax dollars, you know, get property tax from. So that's what I'm seeing. This is why we've done this. Brought forth 3 maps and showing what it will expand into. And that's what this is from.
If I could just, Mr. President, just to Sandy's point, you felt that it's premature for the district to have this plan, and I guess I think it is just the opposite, but is quite timely. Obviously, the concern of the zoning commission, and I understand and appreciate their concerns, is the loss of commercial development property. This is meant to address that concern. The district is looking now to seeing what we can use and what we need of this parcel and what we could possibly forego to the benefit of the city. And so the Planning Commission, I'm sure, is very interested, and actually I would think that they would view this as a positive development because we've found some extra acreage here that can be available for commercial development. So rather than this being the cart before the horse or premature, as you said, I think it is very timely. We're hoping to move this forward. Obviously, this has been a roadblock that wasn't entirely anticipated. So I think we need to do this now to see to show what we can offer to the city and to the Planning Commission. So I guess I would say that this is is very timely that we address this now.
Okay, we've had good, rigorous discussion on this. If there's any other new points or any other comments, I'll take those. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion regarding this item, this recommendation for this site plan. If somebody would care to do that.
So moved, Mr. Hall.
All right. Do you want to put that in some kind of language? I think.
I would move to approve the St. Croix Meadows site concept plans for a grade 8-9 secondary school, a 3-year high school, and a 4-year high school as presented by the administration to provide the City of Hudson for rezoning consideration and for use during the district's community engagement process to determine the configuration of the secondary school and what to include in a future construction referendum.
So we have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? Second from Brian Bell.
I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Okay. Roll call vote, starting with Mark.
Kaisershot, aye.
German, aye.
Bell, aye.
Robson, aye.
Holland, aye.
Gerke, no.
The motion passes, and we will move on.
We would also recommend that you have a second motion about the to approve and support the sale of approximately 10 acres of that site, so that certainly the Plan Commission and the City Council know your intent.
Right. Sorry, thank you. Somebody else?
May I make
Pat.
a comment, a few comments
Before,
about that?
why don't let's make a motion in a second, and then we'll have a discussion, okay? So is there a motion regarding the 10 acres?
Mr. President, I would move to support the sale of approximately 10 acres of the St. Croix Meadows property for commercial or City of Hudson use that is compatible with the secondary school on the adjacent parcel. Understanding that the sale of this approximate 10 acres would happen following the Hudson School District closing on the purchase of the entire St. Croix Meadows site and approval of the sale of approximately 10 acres at an annual or special meeting of the electorate.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Brian Bell. So now we can have some discussion regarding this, Pat?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Rees made a statement about that we were disingenuous with what we were planning to do with this whole parcel. We felt that we were looking for 65 acres, and that was hard to find around the area that is flat, usable for a large school. This came into our hands as a gift. Maybe some people don't feel that way, but I feel that way. And it was way more than 65 acres. We had to buy the whole parcel, building and all. We did not know if the building had any potential. We were very pleased to be able to have 125 acres, that 90 acres was usable, and it was awesome. Now, the referendum passed with many people, everybody, it was a majority all over the place, and now the City Council is looking at it, and I don't think we are disingenuous by looking at maybe 10 acres can go back to the city. I don't think it's disingenuous at all. And we will go to the electorate, if it has, and we'll try to do something that they all know, and maybe that electorate says, no, we want that 10 acres. I don't know. It won't be up to us in the end. It will be up to the community, and I hope we'll have it in the newspaper, we'll try to do what we can to get the whole electorate there. And if their decision to keep the 10, then that's the way it would be. But we, at this point, really feel we can give them 10 acres to do something for the city. That's all.
I just would like to clarify something about the 65 acres, because there seems to be a misconception that if we had 65 acres, we could have everything on the site that we have in this plan. And I think that would be quite impossible for us to do, certainly difficult. And when we talked about a 65-acre site, we made the assumption that certain things would not be on the site. So, for example, you see competition fields on this site. If we were at 65 acres, we would be making the decision that they wouldn't all be there and that they would remain where they are at the present time. So with this site, we have the flexibility to make that choice and to either do it when the next referendum comes up based on feedback from our community and the decision of the board, or to have a placeholder on that site for that, because a future board may make that decision to relocate our fields there. So just a clarification on what the 65 acres really represented.
Any other discussion?
Well, please call for a roll call vote on this one also.
You can do that as well. So we have a motion and a second to approve the potential sale of approximately 10 acres of this parcel. We'll start with a roll call vote again. Mark?
Kaisershot, aye.
German, aye.
Bell, aye.
Robson, aye.
Holland, aye.
Gerke, no.
Okay, the motion passes, and now we will move on. Next item for action is the 2012-2015 District Technology Plan. Sandy?
Thank you. Every 3 years, public schools in the state of Wisconsin must submit and have approved by DPI a board-approved 3-year information and technology plan. The plan is moved this year to an online format, so the plan can be viewed at the link that was provided in your board book. It includes goals, and as far as Hudson goals, a lot of them are focused on things like engaging students in a technology-enriched learning experience, providing comprehensive connections to enhance learning, providing educators the support they need and the professional learning they need to increase competence in technology, also looking at our access and our infrastructure for both students and staff, and then there's also goals aligned with the library and media staff, both with learning activities that they provide to our students and then their upkeep of the collections found in our libraries. So this evening, the plan was shared at the Learning and Program Development meeting on April 30th, and tonight we need your approval of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept or to approve this district plan, this technology plan?
So moved.
Motion by Lynn, second?
Second.
Second by Brian Bell.
Can I ask for a roll call vote on this?
Sure. Can I ask for discussion first?
Sure.
Is there any discussion regarding this? Okay. Roll call vote. Mark?
Kaisershot, aye.
German, aye.
Bell, aye.
Robson, aye.
Holland, aye.
Gerke, aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. The third and final item for action is the appointment of the delegate to CISA 11 Annual Convention on June 4th, 2012. I'm happy to report that if it's the wish of this board, Pat German has offered her time to be our delegate for that convention, so I'll entertain a motion to that end.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion by Lynn, second?
Second.
Second by Bell. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a voice vote this time. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, Pat.
Yes, thank you, Pat.
Okay, we'll move to consent items. We'll take this action as one, but we'll ask that specifically the expenditures language be read as part of that. So,
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent items and that the Director of Financial Services be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $1,613,511.59.
okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bell. Any discussion? Hearing none, voice vote. All those in favor of the consent agenda items, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. The consent agenda items are approved. Moving on now to committee reports. I have the privilege of offering both reports tonight. The Facilities and Grounds Committee has met on April 23rd. We had 4 agenda items. We discussed the appraisal of County Road UU property in anticipation of a potential sale pending the outcome of the land at the St. Croix Meadows, dog track, and so forth. Secondly, there was authorization for facility assessment of the high school and the middle school, again in anticipation that there might need to be some changes to the high school, potentially the middle school. We did go ahead with the assessment of the high school, however, have not done so and won't be moving forward with the middle school. The high school has got a few more years on it, I guess, and needs a little bit more study. So we've done that assessment. Third agenda item was hiring process for an architect consultant to support the conceptual planning to secondary school. Again, the committee reviewed this and made the decision that the committee will take the stance or the position of setting criteria for the administration, and then the administration will move forward with that criteria, vet the potential candidates for that job, and we'll move forward with that action. Finally, preparation for a City Planning Commission meeting. We've heard a lot about that tonight, the site plan that was just approved tonight as well. And those were the 4 agenda items for the Facilities and Grounds Committee. Are there any comments from any of the Facility and Grounds Committee members, or any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
I see on the agenda preparation for City Planning Commission meeting to respond to requests for rezoning to St. Croix Meadows. But the site plans that you just got passed were not talked about at this meeting, under this agenda on the 23rd? You said that the site plans were not discussed at the committee level?
Right. Not at that meeting, no.
Not at this
These were
meeting.
prepared after that.
Well, I want to just clarify, because Sandy, I thought when I saw that as well, a reminder of what you had asked before. And what we talked about was we were in preparation for that, but we didn't have the plans at this time.
At this meeting on the 23rd, at the Facilities Committee, you talked about...
Just for clarification, we talked about the aspects of that site plan and the elements of that around the 10 acres potentially being sold, and
So you did have a discussion about the site plan issue at a Facilities Committee meeting?
Well,
correct?
Yes, that we were preparing it. We were in the process of preparing it. That's really all we talked about. The details of it, no, just really that we were in the process of preparing it and responding, and why we were doing that and responding. But we didn't have any of the details at that time.
So the details that you talked about at that meeting, then were they given to Mr. Erickson so he could get the people to prepare the site plan? Is that how it happened?
Really, there weren't any details. We were just saying at this meeting that we were moving forward, preparing for the
selling off 10
questions.
acres.
No, for the questions that the the Plan Commission had identified. So that's what we were talking about.
Okay.
And
All
one
right.
of them was creating a site plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions regarding the Facilities and Grounds Committee? Okay, moving on, then I'll do the report for the Learning and Program Development Committee meeting, which was held on April 30th. The first agenda item was regarding the district website redesign. We looked at that. We'd heard about criteria that's being set for redeveloping, redesigning the website. Want it to be a high-performing website to reflect the school. Researched other sites and set criteria that it would be clear on its mission, that we include photos of students, and use colors. So that was a brief rundown of that item. Second item was district technology plan, which we heard tonight from Sandy. Third item was the physical education health program. Team came in and helped us understand what their objectives were, what they were working towards, even led us through some exercises, which got most of us out of breath, which some of us were appreciative of. And so it was a good report and awareness of what's happening with our physical education program. The fourth item, the DPI Youth Risk Survey results, was offered by Dana, and I didn't get her last name, but Dana is our alcohol and drug prevention coordinator. Similar to the developmental assets reports with our students, we saw some gains and some losses in that, but continue to monitor that progress in terms of our youth and their actions and their decisions and behavior and so forth around that survey that lead to great character. So the last item on our agenda for that evening was the teacher effectiveness pilot, which Dave Grambo reported on. There's a movement around with the state to work towards a measurable effectiveness of teachers. We're working, trying to be ahead of the game with that a bit, and looking at other models of that. And we congratulate our team for being proactive regarding this. We want to make sure that we're fair and reasonable with any types of measurements that we use regarding our teachers' effectiveness. So, questions about the Learning and Program Development Committee?
Mr. President,
Lynn.
what's the timeline on the website redesign? You may have said, but I didn't.
How come I always get the hard question?
Okay, Sandy. Sandy?
Thank you.
We're coming back with more information to the next Learning and Program, but we're hoping to have some modifications over the summer.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none, then we will move then to a motion to go into closed session, and I'll ask somebody to read that as it's written. If somebody could do that. Thanks.
Mr. President, I move to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent B, parent F, to consider the investigation of charges against and disciplinary data of specific employees along with medical and or behavioral histories of specific students which if discussed in public would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the person.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Brian Bell. We'll do a roll call vote on this. Mark?
Kaisershot, aye.
German, aye.
Bell, aye.
Robson, aye.
Holland, aye.
Gerke, aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned to closed session. We'll just note to the public that we will not be coming back to open session. So thank you. Thanks for your attendance.